Now we're going to talk to Barbara Berg. She is the author of Sexism in America, Alive, Well, and Ruining Our Future. Professor Berg, welcome to the Young Turks.
Thanks. It's very nice to be on.
So let's get at some of the numbers here so we have a better understanding of what the magnitude of the problem is. From what I understand, women still not making quite as much as men in America. Is that rumor true?
That rumor is absolutely true. Women have advanced really very little in terms of the gender pay gap. It's still 77 cents to the dollar, and although that doesn't sound like a lot, over the course of a lifetime, a woman working full-time, and many women, as we know, don't, but a woman working full-time earns, on average, $700,000 less than a man. And these are mostly white women. Women of color, the numbers are even greater.
Dr. Berg, is there any particular reason for that other than sexism? And I don't have anything up my sleeve. I'm really just curious. Does it have something to do with the type of work that women do, or is it just, or is that all tied together?
You know, that's really a great question. For a long time, it was felt that it really was dependent upon the kind of work that women did. And we know that most women are still, in 2009, in lower paid service positions. But a recent study by the American Association of University Women has shown that even starting right out of college, women are making less than men. And that wage gap only widens as women continue in their careers. And studies have actually shown that women in the same careers as men, doctors, veterinary medicine, even in investment banking, doing exactly the same jobs, are making less. As Gloria Steinem said years ago, why don't you just turn to the male next to you and say, hey, what are you making? And you'll see the difference if he's honest.
Are there really women doctors? All right. Here's one of those stats that by the way, Barbara Berg's book is Sexism in America, Alive, Well, and Ruining Our Future. This was almost the more. First of all, I didn't know that women hold 60% of master's degrees in this country. That's a huge lead. That is almost a filibuster-proof lead there, with 60% of the master's degrees.
Thinking about health care here, always.
Yes, always, and 38, but collect only 38% of the pay. But here's almost because we know that there was a disparity, and theoretically we were working to end that disparity, and it will take a long time, decades, generations. But in 2005, women, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2005, women earned 81% as much as men. But by 2008, it's down to 79.9%. It's actually going in the wrong direction. Why is that, and what is causing that?
We are actually going in the wrong direction, I think, for a lot of reasons. You know, for the longest time, I would say probably the past 30 years, it's been assumed that we're a post-feminist society. And when you begin to get beyond the numbers a little bit, you really see that there's rampant discrimination against women. It's in the workforce, it's in education. We see women demeaned in our popular culture. So I think that it's okay to tease out a few numbers and look at it and say, we seem to be doing well here and not doing well there. But I think if you look at the general picture, we're moving backwards on many, many fronts.
Dr. Berg, I'm going to play the skeptic here.
Okay.
And I'm not sure I'm even quite playing. Because, look, if you say to me there's been a pattern of discrimination throughout history on this issue, I say to you, of course, of course. And is there still some now? Of course there is. But I saw a study that showed that women coming out of law school make just as much, if not a little bit more than men for some period of time. And that one of the issues that comes into play later is that when women get pregnant, a lot of times they either drop out of the workforce for some time, and it's not all women, obviously, it's a certain percentage of women, and then that winds up putting their career back. Now, you can say that's discrimination, but it is a choice that they're making, and I see that as one of the understandable reasons why, in the long run, they would make less money, for example, in a career like law.
But let me jump right in here because that's an important point that you're making. I think one would be inclined to agree with that if it weren't for the fact that women actually start out in many, many jobs making less. When they start right out of college, they are actually making less than men. And what we see happening is that women may, I don't know the particular law firms that you're talking about, have actually be making a bit more than men at some point. But what happens is that these women don't move up in the scale. They don't get to be made partners. And I'm glad, actually, that you mentioned the maternity leave because, you know, we are one of actually, I was going to say one of two, and now we're actually the only nation in the world that doesn't, industrialized nation in the world, I should edit, that doesn't offer paid maternity leave. And it's very hard for women to take off. So sometimes women are able to, sometimes they aren't. But when they do take off, they're really penalized for that. Many, many women come back to jobs where they're demoted, where they are given less responsibility. In fact, one of the women I interviewed was so demoralized when she returned from her maternity leave, and indeed she was an attorney, that she finally cried out to one of the partners, I had a baby, not a lobotomy. And so what happens very, very often is that women are tracked, and it's not necessarily a question of how much they want to work or how ardent or how productive they are. There really does seem to be a discrimination against mothers in the workforce, and in fact
I understand that, and given what you're saying, of course, about the rest of the developed world, et cetera, I don't argue with that because I think that's exactly right. But if we had perfect equality and no discrimination, wouldn't women on average, because of voluntarily leaving the workforce, some percentage of them, due to motherhood, wouldn't they on average make less than a man?
It's hard to say, and it's hard to know, because I don't, many, many studies, we had this opt-out myth, about 6 or 7 years ago now, which was pushing forth very, very strongly the thesis that mothers were voluntarily leaving the workforce to stay home and raise their children. And, any woman who decides to do that, that's wonderful if she can afford it. But when people began to study this a little bit more closely, they realized that it wasn't so much the pull of motherhood as the push of the workplace, that women were really being pushed out for some of the reasons I gave before, inflexible hours, very, very demanding. So I don't think I don't think we need to really get bogged down in would they make on average less, because really the pay scale is not the whole picture. When you think that the United States ranks only 27th in the Global Gender Gap Report of 2008, and this is published by the World Economic Forum, and it puts us behind Cuba and Lithuania, and the report examines education, employment, women's representation in government, where we actually only ranked 54th, and health and survival, where we're a dismal 37th place. I mean, the picture is much broader. I wouldn't want us to just focus only on what we began with, the gender pay gap, because the picture of discrimination and sexism in this country is really so much broader and more pervasive than that.
Now, Ben's going to ask you the next question, but I just wanted to do a quick correction for the audience. Dr. Berg, we're number one. Okay, yeah. I heard it on Fox News. It doesn't matter what the statistics say.
Fox News, gosh, they just keep spinning out those great numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, to them we will always be number one.
We're the best at everything.
Okay, I just needed you to understand that. We're
number one.
Well,
I know that we're the best at pulling the wool over the eyes of the American public. Isn't that what they want to do?
You mentioned popular culture. And there's a stat here, and by the way, Dr. Berg's book is Sexism in America, Alive, Well, and Ruining Our Future. It's a great title. The pervasive sexism popular culture, 85% of speaking parts in G-rated children's movies are male?
That's correct.
That's
staggering,
weird.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that seems, and okay, well, first of all, I mean, obviously it's in your book. You didn't make it up. So what's the danger of that? What price do we pay for that?
Okay, that's a great question also. One of the, I guess I can say, mixed blessings of writing this book is that I got to watch a lot of children's TV and a lot of movies that I might not ordinarily have done.
Don't call it. That's, mixed blessing.
It's a mixed blessing.
Children's TV, let me just say this. Children's TV, it sucks. Okay,
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
So the problem with, if we take something like B Story, which was a very, very popular children's movie, and kids, as we know, have videos which they watch a gazillion times a week, so it's not just that they sing it once. In B Story, Barry B has one of the main, he's the male lead character. There are two female in the movie that have speaking parts, although lots and lots of male characters have speaking parts. One is Barry's mom, who is a stereotypical, intrusive, hovering, and she can hover because she's a bee, helicopter mom. And the other is a human, it's animated, so it's a human figure, Vanessa Bloom, who's a florist. And the plot of the movie revolves around trying to save the world from having all of the flowers extinguished. And to that end, Barry and Vanessa commandeer an airplane, and neither one of them has ever been driven an airplane, piloted an airplane. And Barry is giving Vanessa instructions, and she becomes increasingly flustered. And to get her to focus, he slaps her across the face, and then a fight ensues. So this is a long answer to your question. What children learn in movies like this is that women are annoying, intrusive, ornamental, ditzy, they can't follow instructions, and when they get out of line, they need a good slap. So these are the dangers in having children watch these movies, and I'm sure that the producers of this movie never had that in mind. I mean, they certainly didn't want to have a movie that exalts violence between men and women when we know that violence against women is a huge problem in this country.
But Dr. Berg, and we're talking to Sarah Berg. She's taught at Sarah Lawrence College, Yale Medical School, Columbia University, and her book is Sexism in America. I understand that, but, from time to time, since I was born Muslim, I'll hear Muslims privately complain, the Jews make all the movies. It's hideous, right? And I try to correct them on it. And one of the things that I say is, hey, listen, if you object to it that much, why don't you go make movies? Okay? Now, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but if we flip this here, I think the reason is because men make more movies. And men write the movies, men produce the movies, and hence you have 85% of the roles going to men. Now, I know that there's long-lasting power structures at play here, but that being said, shouldn't women get into movies more, and that would help, alleviate part of the problem?
If only they could. I mean, we have seen many, many women who've tried to break into movies and try to change, and a lot of women who were heads of Hollywood studios actually lost their jobs. So, Nina Jacobson, president of Disney, Gail Berman, head of Paramount, Stacy Schneider, chairman of Universal Pictures, have all been replaced by men. So you're making an absolutely perfect point here. Yes, and in fact, those numbers have gone down. We had more women in important power positions in Hollywood, I would say, 10 years ago. So we can count that, too, as part of the pushback against women's progress in this country. But you're absolutely right. If more women were making these movies, we would hope, and, I'm not going to say that it's all men do one thing and all women do another. We would hope that women would make movies that are a bit more sensitive to some of these issues. But listen, men can be sensitive to these also. I think it's important for us to talk about this. It's important for this to be part of our national conversation. I think it's important for these issues to be raised and for men to say, hey, I didn't realize that. Yeah. I didn't understand that when I make movies where men dominate the speaking parts, what I'm showing young women is that they don't really matter as much, that they're just peripheral. In fact, it was Gina Davis, who started the Institute on Gender and Children in the Media, who began this study of the G-rated movies. And, she's been a wonderful advocate for enlarged women's roles in her movies and in real life. And she was actually devastated when she watched with her, I think it was a 3-year-old or 4-year-old daughter, and she said, my God, where are all the female turtles? Where are the female ninjas? Why are these movies so male-dominated?
Yeah,
sorry.
No, it's quite all right. It's a remarkable stat, 85% in G-rated movies, because, of course, women seem to write every children's book that's ever been written, but somehow in the movies that has changed. Barbara Berg, the book is Sexism in America, Alive, Well, and Ruining Our Future. Thanks for joining us. And just for the record, men can also be annoying and intrusive. That's what I find that people in general are fairly annoying and intrusive.
Okay. So we'll conclude on that note. Dr. Berg, thanks so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
Watch the live show at theyoungturks.com.